Rounding numbers. Today we're going to round numbers. When you round numbers, follow these steps. The first step, you want to identify the place that you're rounding to. So in this case, it says round to the nearest hundredth. I need to find the hundredth place. I know that the 0 is in the tenths place, the 8 is in the hundredths place, and the 9 is in the thousandths place. So because it says round to the nearest hundredth, I will underline that place. Step 2, I'm going to look at the number behind the underlined digit. If it is 5 or higher, I'm going to bump the underlined digit one place. If it is lower than 5, I'm going to let it ride or leave it alone. So I'm going to look at the digit behind the underlined digit. In this case, it's a 9. It's going to tell me what to do with that 8. The 9 is 5 or higher. So because that's a 9, it's going to tell me to bump that 8 1. So I'm going to go ahead and write everything exactly as it is beforehand. When I get to the underlined digit, I bump it one number, which is going to turn that into a 9. And then everything behind the underlined digit changes to a 0. So that would give us an answer of 9 hundredths. And in fact, because my last 0 is not trapped, I do not even need to include that 0. Okay, now we're going to try some together and do some more examples. So, for example, this one says the nearest tenth. First thing I have to do is identify the tenths place. So I have my 9, which is in the tenths place, 8, which is in the hundredths, 7, which is in the thousandths place. I would underline the digit that's in the tenths place and then use the digit behind that to tell that number what to do. The digit behind it is an 8, so it's 5 or higher, making it necessary for me to add 1 to this 9. The problem with adding 1 here is that that's going to bring it to 10, which is actually going to change the place that the number is in. And then all of my numbers behind that become zeros. And again, if they're not trapped zeros, I don't need to write them. So the answer to this would just be 1. Even though it says nearest tenth, because this was a 9 here, it bumped it into the ones place. Let's try another one. Nearest tenth, again, I would underline the tenths place, use the number behind it to tell me what to do. It is larger than 5, so it tells me to make it larger. Everything before that, I have to transcribe exactly the same. This one is going to bump that from a 7 to an 8, and then everything behind it becomes a 0. Because they are not trapped zeros, I don't need to include them. Alright, let's look at some of these on nearest hundredth. Let's look at, how about this one right here. So nearest hundredth, I underline the hundredths place, and again I'll use the place behind it to tell me what to do. Because it's 5 or higher, I'm going to move it up 1. Everything before that digit stays exactly the same, and then this would change to a 6, and everything thereafter is 0. Nearest 1, I would underline the ones place, use the digit behind me to tell me what to do. So because it's 5 or higher, it's going to turn that to a 6. The digits after it would become 0, but because they are not trapped in between two digits or a decimal and a digit, I don't need to include them. I'm also going to show you one that you don't round up for. So let's look at this one. Let's say we're rounding to the nearest tenths place. I would underline the 2, and I would use the digit behind to tell me what to do. That is not 5 or higher. So in that case, that's going to tell me to just leave the 2 exactly the same, and everything behind it becomes a 0. And again, if they're not trapped zeros, I don't need to write them. So my answer would be 74 2/10 when I round this to the nearest tenth. And that was today's lesson.